it's such a privilege to be able to have these kinds of conversations and, bring wellness to people.
Follow the Leader features dynamic women entrepreneurs in their journeys to becoming a success in business. This podcast is an inspirational space for entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, and thought leaders as they share their keys to success. I am Chanel Christoph Davis, the CEO and founding partner of the largest woman and minority-owned sales tax advisory practice in the country, Davis and Harmon, LLC. Welcome to Follow the Leader podcast show. Today, our guest leader is Julie Smolyansky. I'm so excited to have her. She became the youngest female CEO of a publicly held firm when she took over Lifeway Foods at the age of 27 in 2002. Since then, Julie has continued the company's growth trajectory with creative product development and marketing, bringing Kefir into the U.S. mainstream and boosting annual company revenues to over $100 million. Under her leadership, the company has expanded distribution throughout the United States, Mexico, the UK, Ireland, as well as portions of Central and South America and the Caribbean. Julie has been named to Fortune's Business 40 Under 40, Fortune's 55 Most Influential Women on Twitter, as one of the best Instagrammers of the 40 Under 40 list, and was recently named to 2020 Champion of Wellness by Very Well. She released her first book, The Kefir Cookbook, an ancient healing superfood for modern life, recipes from my family table and around the world, in March of 2018. She lives in Chicago and is the mother of 2 girls. Welcome to the podcast show, Julie. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun to be with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited I'm talking to you because I think that, you're a perfect way to kick off this season's podcast, just based on the nature of your business. You focus on wellness and health, and it's such an issue and such a topic that's on the top of everyone's mind today.
Yeah. I know. I love that is the kind of career path that I get to, enjoy. And it's such a privilege to be able to have these kinds of conversations and, bring wellness to people and, in it is as a democratized way as possible. This is something that everybody can embrace. And I think it's just like a matter of awareness and, that I get to, it's something, I am personally passionate about. I, try to live a really healthy lifestyle, whatever that is, and practice self-care, and we all need it. And, health is so many things. It's not just, what your blood pressure is. It's also, how you feel about yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you, present, how you feel in your body is so important. And, it really is the difference of like why we're here. I think on earth, we're here to like heal ourselves. And so anyway, the fact that I get to do this in, my day-to-day life is really, as like it's really a fun way to exist. And it feels really purposeful. I think finding purpose is another big piece of enjoying it. And part of that self-care is finding purpose in your career. And so, yeah, I love it. I love the story I get to tell. I love, inspiring others to make choices that are not always the easy, good choices that are the easy ones, I guess, but the right ones, are the ones that, again, a mindful choice is always good. I always like mindful choices, that you're kind of the steward of your own ship.
Yes.
So yeah. And I think you got a short bio, because another thing that was really important is I was a executive producer on a number of documentaries also.
Oh, wow.
Another thing I was really proud of was in the space of gender-based violence. And so a number of projects in that too. So also something that brings me so much, joy to be working on a challenging issue. So, and we have so many.
Let's dive into it. So let's take
Yeah.
us back, to young Julie. What were you like young? I also read in a portion of my question and answer portion of your bio that you are a refugee of Ukraine. So that is something that's also extremely topical and top of mind
Right.
for everyone in the world right now. So take us back to the beginning. How did we get to
Oh.
the evolution of today's Julie? Like your bio is so rich, there's so many things we can touch on.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Well, I was born in Kiev at the height of the Cold War. And I my parents really hated communism. They hated life in the Soviet Union. They hated the repression that they felt, the freedom to practice religion, the freedom of press, the freedom of anything, entrepreneurship, life. Like they were just so suppressed. And, my father was able to everything is censored. So there's no privacy. Everything is censored, no real news except state-run media. My parents felt very repressed and censored in the Soviet Union. They were, in their 20s, and, they couldn't even listen to a rock album, that was censored. So, like we are watching unfold again today, certain media being censored and prohibited. And that was before the internet. So luckily smart people can get around. But back then, my father, for example, because he was an engineer, he was able to wire radio, and he was catching on shortwave radio, which we're hearing a lot about again today. On shortwave radio, he was getting Voice of America. And he started to learn about what life was like behind the Iron Curtain. He, because of communism, like there was scarcity. There wasn't things, there wasn't like stuff. So, and like I said, rock music was prohibited. So he underground, through the underground market system, he was able to get his hands on a couple of rock albums, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and owning these records, he could get locked up in jail. Like the KGB would arrest him. And this was something that got him so mad and so angry that just simply listening to music could get him locked up. And why? Because the messages of rock are about freedom and liberty and revolution and all of that. So, the arts are so powerful. No wonder that they are afraid of them. It's very interesting to see how in our countries, the various prohibition, of certain arts, certain expressions, certain media, certain books, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, it's kind of all coming back, right?
Right.
It blocks self-determination and self.
Yeah. Yes. Right. What are they afraid of? That we're blocking this stuff. Anyway, so my dad hated this. He was like, this was bubbling inside of him. And on the day I was born, he looked at me and he made a promise to me and said, I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of this country. And so he started a plan. And 1 year, exactly on my first birthday, 1 year and about 4 days later, it was 3 days before his birthday on May 4th, we got on a train and defected and left in the middle of the night and left our passports at the border, continued on into Italy, lived in exile in Rome for 3 months. We left with the suitcase and whatever the possessions were. And waited for our green card to enter into the US. And then 3 months later, we were granted asylum and settled in Chicago. We were one of the first 48 families that were allowed to come into from this former Soviet, again, height of the Cold War.
Right. Wow.
I'm sure there was a lot of investigation process and I feel so privileged that we were, I was one of these babies that, was saved. Like, I'm going to cry now because, it's all happening again. And I think about, the only reason that I am here is because, in the 70s, brave Americans marched in the street and demanded that we are released. John Lewis actually was, a huge advocate, gave an incredible speech during, in the process of the peace summit.
God bless John Lewis.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And I just think about all the hundreds and thousands of people that were writing letters, calling their senators, calling their congressmen, marching in the streets for our release. And had all of that not happened, I would be in Ukraine right now, and I would be either dead or, a victim of rape, or, running into Poland.
Yes.
God knows what. It wouldn't have been good, because usually you kind of stay where you're born, right? You stay around the kind of place or country generally. Right. I mean, this is a big deal to get up and leave everything for, two young kids. I was just their infants, and it's very powerful for me to see what's happening.
I mean, your father too.
Yeah.
The
bravery.
Unbelievable.
Despite whatever shortcomings, that decision, is the most important decision in the trajectory of my life, truly. Yes. And the opportunities that it's afforded me, and the challenges. I mean, it's really hard to grow up with one foot in one culture and one foot in another culture and not really feel like you belong in either. Yes. And not really feel like you have a home. Where is home? What does that mean? Anyways, with this immigration and refugee story and everything, my mom, when she landed in Chicago, she learned English watching General Hospital. I mean, amazing, incredible. Right? I love this. It's a common story, right? We learn from the media again. And the drama, you can understand in a soap opera what's happening without.
Right. I love it.
It's great. And so she walked into a grocery store and she couldn't believe her eyes how much food, because they had scarcity. They'd stand in line all day at a store that they heard had chickens that day, and they get to the front of the line and the chickens are all gone. Wow. Toilet paper, no toilet paper. They would scrunch up newspaper for toilet paper and make it soft. These are the stories that, I know. My great grandparents were murdered in the Holocaust, and my grandmother ran into the forest and hid, and now it's just happening again. It's just so terrifying how this is happening right now. Yeah. It's surreal, absolutely surreal. And so anyways, my mom goes into a store in the States, in Chicago, and she can't believe all this food and variety, abundance and variety. But it was different than the Slavic food, because even in scarcity, they still had their fermented pickles and this, and their, all of their foods, their borscht, potatoes, lots of potatoes. Poor people food. I always like to say I hate potatoes, because it reminds me of, you get potato soup, potato this, potato that, a lot of potatoes. But anyways, it's she opens up the first deli, the first Russian. We used to say Russian. We had identity crisis. Now we're so proudly saying we're Ukrainian. Ukrainian. Right. Well, back then, you just used to say Russian because who knew Ukrainian, and then it was the Soviet Union. So it's identity crisis that we're all having too, about our names and identities, but. So she opens up the first deli, and it becomes town square, and everyone from the mass immigration that happening, they all came to our store, and they would come in for advice on, taxes, or, how to buy an apartment, or, a good place to get a pierogi. So they had it all at the store. So eventually that's how they started into the food business. And then they were at a food buying show a few years after that in 85, and they bought 3 bottles of Kefir. This was in Germany. And they bought 3 bottles of Kefir, and they had, this is a 2,000-year-old staple from the land, from my home country, my land that I'm from. Wow. And it was passed down generation to generation. And, this was something that everyone in the Soviet Union for 2000 years from our region drank, and it just generation to generation passed down. And a typical lunch would just be like a quart of kefir and a loaf of bread. So it's like very meager. But the people who drank it in that part of the country, in that part of the world, they lived past 100 years of age, and they attributed their longevity to their consumption of kefir. And it wasn't, they experienced a sense of well-being, they said. So it was very storied, a lot of folklore, and this passing down word of mouth, generation to generation, mostly babushka to babushka, or, child, grandmother to mother to child.
It's that strong oral tradition. Yes.
Exactly. It's so fascinating to me. And so that's how kefir survived, and through this word of mouth. But because of how closed off everyone was, it was only in that region. And it wasn't until we immigrated, and my dad said, wow, America has everything, but it doesn't have kefir. And that's it. And
that was a light bulb moment.
A light bulb, like missing, something that this country doesn't have. And that was it. And then, 6 months later, he incorporated. He became the first Soviet Jew to take a company public, for a Soviet immigrant to take a company public. It's unbelievable. Even before Sergey Brin, of Google. So it's, super trailblazing, just unstoppable without, he didn't have a network. He didn't grow up in the system. Had a strong accent. Wasn't part of the club, and did it, just did not, even if anyone like laughed at him, or he knew that, people were snickering behind his back, like what, but he just went ahead. And I love that example.
And it definitely ties back to his longing for more, in his, desire for self-determination, and listening to rock music and wanting to pave his own way. Immigrated to America, and he never lost that fire.
Yeah. And then, I think he knew that there would be challenges for me, as a woman, and he always pointed out really strong female role models to me.
I love that.
He like really made an effort of that. And, even my own mother was, an inspiration from, her entrepreneurial aspirations, and all that she had done. So
your parents, did they start Lifeway together, or your dad started Lifeway?
My dad founded Lifeway.
Say your dad's name. I want to know his name.
his name was Michael Smolyansky. Michael Smolyansky. And unfortunately, in 2002, at the age of 55, he had a sudden heart attack. Oh, wow. And so it was incredibly shocking, horrific, super traumatic, just a nightmare, and a crisis for the company and everything. And but the next day, the board had met, and I was voted to be the CEO, and and that, I didn't know at the time, but eventually somebody said, you're the youngest female CEO of a publicly traded company. And that was almost 20 years ago, and I'm still here, and I've been through so much. I am battle tested.
You've all been. So it's called kefir.
Yes, kefir or kefir. A lot of people say kefir.
So explain to the audience, what is it? Like, explain to a person who's not familiar with your culture, what is it?
So it's a fermented cultured dairy product. It is a combination of multiple various strains, bacterial strains, live active cultures. And so it's a special combination of the strains, and milk. It's got to be a lactating mammal to be considered, real kefir. That's how it's defined by the International Dairy Federation. So the cultures inoculate the milk, and there's a it takes like 18 hours, and there's a byproduct of lactic acid, and it becomes this like effervescent fermented bubbly beverage that's now we call a probiotic because it's got live active cultures that are beneficial to the body. And this magical combination of things that happen when the fermentation process happens. And we're just starting to learn about science is backing up what my ancestors knew intuitively in their gut. But this is something that supports a strong, healthy gut. You want to have diversity in your gut. We're now learning so much. The science really started to catch up to what our ancestors were talking about in 1908 when Dr. Elie Metchnikoff, he was a scientist, a biologist, and he did the first rounds of research of kefir and fermented milks on first animals and then eventually people. But he found, and he won the Nobel Prize for this work. And it was really the first kind of stamp of like approval, that there's something about this. And in the last 100 plus years, almost 110, 15 years, we have learned so much about the gut and the benefit of bacteria and diversity of bacteria and what it does and how it helps us. I mean, it is so powerful. Doctors really are now thinking that the gut is the primary brain because now we're learning there's a gut mind gut connection, and there's so much about brain health that we're learning that's connected to the gut. So now we're learning not only is it good for our immunity and digestion, we always kind of had that feeling and we knew that. But in recent years, and I'm talking in like the last 10 years and more so even 5 years, that kefir and probiotics can help reduce stress, depression, and anxiety as well. And it's being linked to all sorts of, mental things from, eating disorders to addiction to, even allergies, all sorts of things that we are learning of the importance of having a strong, healthy gut that's diversified in its bacteria. So we don't even know what we don't know. We're just learning. The bacteria is so powerful. And about like, I think the last even 2 years with COVID, the amount of research that's been done on the, importance of gut health and probiotics and kefir just in the last 2 years, I think has been more research than I've seen in my career, frankly. There's so much research happening, and I think it's exciting to watch it get, built on and built upon, and getting that information out to as many people, because it is something that is such an easy like choice that you can go. It's available at every grocery store, so it's not like you have to
search it out and find it.
Yeah. So
deli. Well, for Follow the Leader, one of the key things that I like to focus on is a lot of leaders and executives and CEOs listen to the show, and we want to focus on the whole individual. So I love the fact that this product is supporting your gut and your biome and your whole well-being. Is so important that people, build around themselves a whole wellness apparatus to support them so they can be the best leaders that they can be.
100%. You cannot lead if you are not taking care of yourself. You have to put your own oxygen mask on before you can help anybody else. I've learned that over and over again. I repeatedly, and it's a practice. Because I am the first one to admit that I will push it until, I knock myself out. And I learn the hard way all the time. But I do know learning your limits and knowing what you need to recuperate, because it's the recovery. And I've learned that from great athletes. It's all about the recovery. And so, yes, it's super important. And if you are a leader, you are in the ring and you are going to battle every day for your company, your team, your brand, whatever, everything. And it's a fighting world out there. And there is, you have to be in, good spirit, let's say, to do it, and to do it over the long term. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I remind myself that also. And, it is really challenging. It's really stressful. If you're scaling, if you're building, whatever it is that you're doing, it's hard.
It's a challenge. And I see
Yeah.
that you guys are diversifying your product mix. You're doing more with oats now, which is exciting.
Yes.
And mushrooms. So tell us about that. What
Yeah.
made you go into that arena?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to deny that there is a movement of people that are, looking for plant-based alternatives for whatever reason. They want an option, maybe whatever it is. There's a myriad of reasons why, somebody wants dairy-free or just an alternative. And I could see that, and the writing is on the wall. And so, it was important for us to, provide that choice to our consumers and bring some innovation to the space. So it is a dairy-free oat-based probiotic, a cultured oat. It's different than our kefir, 100% it's different. But, for people who know and love Lifeway and want that option, it's there.
Right.
So it's at Whole Foods and, Publix and a number of other grocers across the country. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you see it, it's a challenge for us. It's a challenge in the space. And, it's important that we continue to innovate and stay relevant and, listen to our consumers and provide, the best options for them. And it's fun. It's a fun space to play in, and it's exciting to try to, crack this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely want to talk about your documentary work. Tell me what brought you to that world, and where can we find some of your documentaries if we want to watch them? Like, give us all the background.
Yeah, sure. Well, I had spent most of my childhood and or teenhood, I guess, and then college and on trying to prevent violence against women and, various gender-based violence. And I myself had experienced some incredibly traumatic events, and, wanted to do what I could to prevent it from happening to others. And anyway, so I became like, I helped write the first curriculum in the Chicagoland for teen dating violence. This was like a long time ago. In my high school days. And then I taught
Wow.
I taught that curriculum then to a number of, high schools across the city. I did that through YWCA. And that was really fun because I learned a lot about leadership in those early days even. But then in college, I became a rape crisis counselor, and I always wanted to kind of work on preventing the issue, but I felt like helpless in that, like, I was the only one talking about this. And this was before Me Too. So there weren't that many people speaking out about it. And it was really challenging to ever really talk about it because it is taboo. And, nobody knew that I was myself a survivor. And
Wow.
so, but I was really passionate about it. But anyways, as I, grew in my career, I, in some ways, first for a long time did not want to even bring up the topic, but
Right.
then
You don't
I
want to talk
like,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, let's talk about other things, safer things. And but anyways, as I kind of built out my career, I started thinking, I have a lot of privilege and I have a lot of opportunities, and I talk to a lot of people, and I need to go deeper, and I need to be more honest about my own story, and I need to move the needle on this and like do this with scale, because I know everything now just from a business lens. You want to scale. I mean, I want to scale, and I want to scale this message. So I recognize that first I had all this privilege that I had, and an opportunity, and that the idea would be to join with others who also feel this way, and help create a tool that can be shared and lives past just me and my moment right here, that create like a documentary. And
Yeah.
it dawned on me, like, that's what I need to do. I need to fund this kind of, film that can be shared with millions of people and continues on whether I'm here or not, because you can go to all the panels in the world, but like, there's not enough time and resources. So I did the hunting ground, which highlighted college campus sexual assault in the cover up there, and that was so powerful. It was Emmy-winning Lady Gaga did the song for it, "Till It Happens to You."
Wow.
So
Amazing.
it was, nominated for an Oscar and won an Emmy, and for the 2016 Oscars, myself and 50 other survivors and Lady Gaga did a performance of "Till It Happens to You," and that was so powerful because I think it like was a domino effect for the Me Too movement, which then like 6 to 8 months later, Me Too happened, and I 100% know that it was connected to that. There was a piece of that there that we put a mosaic on that, a tile on that mosaic. And so that's really powerful because I've been working in this space and this movement for 30 years and, felt like it's hopeless. And I wanted to leave something different for my daughters. And I made them that the way that my father made me those promises the day I was born. I made those same promises to my daughters when they were born. And it's what prompted me to be more transparent with my own story, that, the world was like depending on me to be brave and rise up for that next generation. And, if not me, like who? And, I hope everyone says that, and feel like, light the torch. It's not like one person, again, it's like all of us collectively. So to see it unfold in Me Too and watching it happen live, like on Twitter, and the amount of disclosures, but, minute by minute globally, literally watching it unfold in front of my eyes is the most incredible gift I've ever had.
And the gift that you gave your daughters, that one person's voice can make a difference.
Yeah.
You felt like you were pushing a rock up a hill and it kept rolling on to you, but you kept focused on your mission of getting the message out there, and look what you were able to create. That's such a powerful gift to give your girls too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. That's incredible. I have a daughter who's in college, so that speaks to my heart. And she's very active on campus and very active in high school with the same issue of violence against women and girls. She created a curriculum for her class and for her school. So she's very much, I admire her and her, voice that she's developing at such a young age. So thank you so much for being an example for our girls.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to hear. It warms my heart. And thank you. It's great. And I hope that, all of our girls and all of our kids can, find that
Find their voice. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and speaking for others who can't speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So, and I love the fact that you put, your effort, your time, and your talent behind your heart. You are also raising funds for the Ukraine through the World Central Kitchen, which is incredible. I mean, you just never stop.
Actually, I started a nonprofit called Test 400K. Started it, it's been a while now, but that helped to start the conversation and the backlog of untested rape kits in the U.S. At the time, there were 400,000. It helped pave the way for over 35 different states doing like rape kit reform over the last decade. So again, really proud of it. We changed a couple laws here in Illinois. And, for a while, it kind of just been like, okay, there's a lot happening with Me Too, and like, let's have that space. But, with Ukraine, the amount of rape being used as a weapon of war is unreal.
Yes.
And the requests, the stories I'm hearing, I'm communicating with some organizations, some NGOs on the ground there that are in they need, Russian, Ukrainian speaking. therapists, and there's a very limited amount. And, the request for rape kits, they need like 5,000 in one border. So anyways, there's so much need, and they need a light on them, and they need resources and help. So anyways, my organization Test 400K is launching an emergency fund to help the victims of war, rape victims of war, because their needs are very special and specific. And so, I am going to shine a light on them and use my platform to give them some voice and resources, and hopefully help restore wholeness for them.
Well, we will definitely put those links in the bio of the show, so that if people want to contribute and get involved, they can find a way to tap into you and what you're doing in Ukraine. Awesome. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's like, I have to do that, right? Like I feel it's such a mirror for me of like what's happening in the world. And, it's my home cities, my towns. I have 30 cousins in Ukraine spread out across the country. I have cousins who are refugees in Poland right now. Like, I am in touch with all of them. It's devastating. And not just for me. I mean, a lot of the people at Lifeway, a lot of the team members have families from that region. And honestly, it doesn't really matter if you're from the region or not, because we should all, all feel about this as an assault on humanity and, the order of the world. And it's just, so I know we're all really, I think, scared and like what's to come, and like sitting and living with that uncertainty is really, really hard. But I think, that's why self-care is so important, because it is what we've all gone through. Not, first we've had the pandemic, and then now this, and I think we're all like exhausted, and it's important to recognize that, and again, continue to take care of ourselves in the best way we can. And like with World Central Kitchen, I love it because food is critical. It's for survival. I mean, so we, in just a few days right after this war started, a bunch of Chicago's best chefs, Tony from Piccolo Sonio and Jason Hamill at Lulu Cafe reached out and had this idea to bring all these chefs together for a night for a fundraiser. This is like the first 2 days into the war. This is how quick this happened. Wow! Within 14 days of the war, and we had this fundraiser. We sold 1,500 tickets and raised 500,000 and an additional 200,000 separately. And, Jose Andres, Chef Jose, is at the border. We've seen him all over the news and, on social media, and just doing like, the work of angels, like all of these volunteers. Like while it's so devastating to watch what's happening, to see this, humanity kind of come together. And I think everyone has done something at this point. And I urge everybody, find something, because they need everything, whatever you care about, whatever it is, to support some way. Yeah.
So I'm going to absolutely drop all your information in there for, all the different humanitarian, things that you're working on. And I know my community is going to rally to help you and to help the efforts in Ukraine. Because like you said, a lot of times we don't know what to do. We don't know where to funnel our energy towards. So this is going to help so many people get involved. So again, thank you for this. And so Julie, listen, you never know when you agree or connect with someone, to talk to someone, you never know what you're going to gain from it. I have gained so much from you. One, I'm going to investigate Kefir immediately, because I need that gut health and mind health restoration that you're talking about. I need that connection. And now I have a way to tap into helping with Ukraine, through your efforts. You've done all of the legwork and groundwork for us so that we can, step in and contribute in a big way. So again, you're just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, I think, thank you. It's so nice to hear, and, to get like that validation, because, I work so hard. I do want to just, leave a mark and leave the world better in some way, and reduce suffering, and fix the wrongs, and
absolutely. And you're
you
doing a
know.
lot. So if
Thank
anyone
you.
wants to follow you on Instagram or on any of your social, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'm at Julie Smolyansky, mostly just on Instagram these days. And let's see, you can also follow at Lifeway Kefir, Lifewaykefir, and Lifeway Oat at Lifeway Oat, which is just exclusively vegan recipes for Lifeway Oat. And then Test 400K at Test 400K, where we will kind of continue to be sharing the stories out of Ukraine. Yeah, so all the ways, lots of ways to connect and email.
Keep this dialogue going. We need to keep this dialogue going. Like you said, we're all going through like really, really tough time right now, but trouble doesn't last always. I believe that. So
that's right.
We're going to come to the end of this. So
yes, and I have faith.
I know my followers, they're going to get involved. So I'm excited that we did this today. Thank you, Julie.